This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, miniatures, and paints, discount prices at miniaturemarket.com. Hello everybody, hope you are having a great day as always. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. I made a video on how to do terrain, so I'm going to do the play-by-play and explain how it works all along. We're actually making a station for a game called Heavy Gear, and I wanted to make a central piece where the mechs had to defend a certain area. So I built it into this piece of scenery. So I'm going to show you how I put it together and how easy you can make your own terrain. It's not very hard. It really isn't. So without further ado, let's head down to the table and take a look. So here you can see what we have, and actually it's really kind of neat. All I did was take some of those styrofoam balls and cut them in half, and I put them basically onto some insulation board. It's a very good foam. Now what I have is, and then you can see there's some of the insulation board. I was able to cut that out with a foam cutting knife that you can get at any Michaels or anything like that. The foam cutting knife is really great because then you can form and cause whatever shapes that you kind of like. Now as you can see, I'm kind of showing you how some of the things you could just take the thing and just stab it all over the place. See how the heat, just how quickly it melts it. And what that does is give you that rock formation type of look. And then what you're going to want to do is just move it in there. And you see I'm just moving. You could cut pieces off of it if you don't like the shape of something. And it helps give detail. And when we add paint later, you're going to see where it's going to get into the recesses. And we create our own recesses in a lot of ways. Of course, it can get a little stringy, and that's why I always have like a little bit of sandpaper around just to kind of take off some of the edges. And I'm just cutting through and just getting it to where I think it's acceptable. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of glue it onto the foam board, and you'll see that in a little bit. But you don't want to keep on hitting the foam board as much, because once it gets some of that caked on there, see how it gets caked on there a little bit, it will cause that not to heat up as much. And you can make any kind of shapes, as you can see right there. I have some nice almost flattened shapes, and then you can add in see how the strings come out, and that's why we do what we do. And sometimes you just want to cut some pieces off there, and you see it just melts it right off, and you can create whatever shape that you want. And that's one of the neat things about it, is creating your own shapes and how you want them to look on the piece of rock that you're trying to make. Now also, while you have your board out, you can just kind of, now watch as I'm just taking and I'm cutting away there and just working that through and making that all come out. See how that just cuts in there? And you kind of move it a little bit and give it a little bit of a wave, and you can cut whatever shapes, because obviously rock formations do not look flat the way that one does. So we're just going to cut right through, and there we go. And then just take that piece off. You can save that piece for something else. You put it aside, and you never know when you're going to need it. But what you want to do is you want to make this and form this piece. Now what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make a little bit of a ridge with these two things that I've glued on top of them. What those are actually going to be is they are actually going to be like a kind of like a sci-fi station in a way. The two things are going to be like dome controls, and then we're going to have like little antennas and things, or pipes sticking out of the ground. So it's something for our whatever models or game set that we're using, something they can defend or attack depending on what you want to do. Now, as you can see here, I'm just moving, and I'm taking my time. I'm not pushing that all the way through, and I'm just easing that through and creating a whole bunch of just certain kind of structures. Now, as you can see, we got done with that, and I put that down, and you can see some of the formation on the side there that I'm creating and how it's starting to come together. Now, we're going to take paint and we're going to start painting some of this, and this is where we're going to really get some great details. What we want to do is we want to keep on going and adding to what we want to do, because it's never really flat. So the more that we cut away, the more of the different types of shapes and formations that we get. And using these knights, you see how you want to make sure that thing gets good and hot, but you also don't want to bend it too much, because it does, especially on this fiberglass. It's not fiberglass, but it's an insulation. It doesn't cut as quick as a normal foam would. So now I'm taking some sandpaper there, and I'm just roughing everything up. And that's exactly what I want to do. Drop it a few times, of course. And I want to take some of those things off. You can use different variances of sandpaper. And if you go over it, if you use a more coarse, it's going to give you some of those lines and definitions that we were using on some of those smaller rocks. And by doing that, as you can see, I'm kind of just tearing away different areas. Now I'm just taking some glue, and I had some sprues around, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make like a pipeline going into these buildings. They're very futuristic buildings. And you can see I'm starting to glue some things in there and stuff like that, and you can see how that's just coming together. And I'm having a bit of a struggle here, but that's all right. I'm going to get it. The wood glue that I'm using is going to set really well, and there we go. We're just going to use that, and it's going to sit right in there. So now we have like a little bit of a, it's starting to come together a little bit. By just adding these pieces in, it kind of gives a definition, or that there's some kind of underground system, and it really just adds to the illusion that we're trying to create, that this is some kind of futuristic base, instead of just throwing two half cylinders on there and saying, hey, yes, base. Kind of like if you made a balloon animal and you made a mess and just called it a llama. But there you go. We've added a couple of those things in, and now we're starting to add different type of rocks formation into the top, and we're gluing them on. And you can see how this is all going to come together, how when we sanded it down, we're trying to put in different pieces in different places and just giving a different illusion. Now also, you can just take and you can kind of scrape up with an X-Acto knife so it's not all so flat. You can make a little bit of indentations and wear on your rock. And that's all I'm doing right here. Just to, being creative, just doing what I think fits and how it's going to play out, and just making some small cuts in there, pulling away some things, sometimes not pulling it away, but really just letting it kind of just sit there, and you can see what I'm trying to create. That I'm trying to create that depth where you have that feel that it's rock and it's not insulation, basically. And we're just scraping that out, taking our time, getting it done. That's the most important thing. And as you can see, it's late at night, and that's usually when I do a lot of this kind of work. Sometimes you can't sleep. It's a good time to make terrain for a game that you might have come up playing if you play tabletop games. It's always better to make your own terrain. It's easier to buy it, of course, but I always sometimes just enjoy taking some time and just creating and making my own things out of my own imagination. And you can see where we're just taking that sandpaper and we're just scraping away some of the things that I was cutting away, because then it's going to give, yes, exactly, that kind of ridged look that I want. And you'll see how that'll come together once we start putting down some paint over it. It's going to make a difference. It's going to cause some ridges and stuff like that. So the first thing I really want to do is I'm going to just take some Vallejo paint that I have, and I'm going to paint black over the station, mainly because I want to get that on there real well, because my next move is to go over that and put a lead belcher in there. And you always want to have a dark color, especially when you're dealing with metallics, so you can bring out the metallics, and that's what's most important. Now I'm taking like Italian sand color, and I'm just going over, because this is a desert planet that we're going to be dealing on. And right now I'm just trying to get some good coverage. And that's what it comes down to, is just making sure that you get some great coverage on there. This is the first color that we want to use, and we just want to make sure that we get all that pink covered, because I haven't heard of a pink planet yet. There we go. And I'm using a cheap brush. You know, for big coverage like this, I usually try to run out and buy a pack of cheap brushes, and I'll use that just to paint with. No sense in using any of my really good brushes. And sometimes I'll use like an Americana paint on this, you know, for just to get the initial coverage on. It really works really well, and I'll always highlight with a more expensive paint. But just for coverage and making sure that I get everything, I really do find that using a cheaper paint sometimes really works. And that's where these craft paints sometimes come in. They work very well. Now you can see how this is really kind of working out here, and really working our paint in here. And I got a little on that globe thing on the station, but that's okay, because I'm going to be painting over that station, so you're not going to notice it. And again, I'm looking for any areas that have the pink in there, because I really want to get over that, and I really don't want that to kind of sit out. And you see I got my little glasses on. And then finally I got that all covered up, and I'm going to clean off my brush here. Remember, in between paints you always want to clean off your brush. Now I'm not worried about making sure that I got complete coverage. I want to try to get the best coverage that I possibly can, but the whole point is to just get as much as I can, because I'm going to go over this a few times in a few different ways. So you can see that it's starting to come together, but it's nowhere near where we would want this, and that's for sure. Next color, the next thing I'm going to do here is, I do have some rocks there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take some Elmer glue once that paint dries and put that in certain spots, you know, because you want to have those large rock foundation formations, but you also like to have a little bit, and it gives the illusion of reality, which we are always trying to pull. And we test it, make sure it's nice and dry, as you can see. And then basically we're going to get ready for the next thing that we're going to do, and that is getting my big fat hand off the screen, right? Again, I'm going to turn this a little bit, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a little dry brushing. Look at that bit. Yeah, there we go. There's the lead belcher that we were talking about. So now we're going to paint that station, and we want that a metallic, you know, to give some definition there. So all that where we might have made some mistakes and stuff like that, we're going to cover that up definitely with a lead belcher, and it's going to make a big difference in what we do. And eventually I'm going to open that pot and get going with it, that's for sure. So you know, again, the lead belcher kind of sits on top there, and really helps. So we're going to shake that up, and then we're going to open it up straight out of the pot, and we're shake it up a little bit, make sure it's good and mixed, And then we're going to go in there and we're going to grab some. And then we're going to go start working on those pieces that we want to start working on. And boom. Close the lid up. And now just take a little bit off. I always just take a little bit off. Make sure that my brush is nice and even. And then we start adding the color in. And we're just, see how lightly I'm doing that? And from the angle I am, I'm just, yeah, there you go. You don't have to cake it on thin. That's what the black does, is it helps holds that color. It holds that. And you can see I'm just doing it very lightly over, so we have a nice light coat, but you could feel the black underneath. But boy, that metallic just sits up. And now all of a sudden it doesn't look like nothing. It's starting to come together like, wow, what is that? That's something in the distance. I don't know what it is. Let's go investigate. And that's kind of what you want to do. Here you can see it in a little better light. How we're going to start to work in there a bit. Probably going to get a little paint, take a little bit off. See how that comes through? And as you can see, I'm still just doing my coverage. I really want to make sure that we get in there. We cover up some of those mistakes that we made. We want to make sure that we do that. And we do a real good job at doing that. And we're just taking our time. Yep, there you go. Just getting those areas. Also, we want to get those pipes that we were showing you. We want to get those pipes and cover that up. And make sure that it looks really, really good. Because we always try to be as realistic. A lot of times, the scenery that you use, it doesn't matter how your models look. It's what they play on, and that gives you the illusion and also gives you what you want in seeing how you want those things to particularly be. And there we go. We're just kind of working that in, and everything's right in the world so far. Perfect. Getting in the recesses a bit. And that's the hard thing. You're looking at the bottom. We don't paint the bottom. You could paint the bottom if you wanted to. You see how that's starting to come out? How that sits up? There you go. Now I'm going to take a little bit more of that glue. And I'm going to just add that glue in certain areas. And I'm just going to squeeze it in there. And I'm going to use that old brush I have. That thing's so beat down. Yeah, look at that thing. And just move it in certain areas. That's all I want to do. I want to move it around, get it, yeah, work it in there. Perfect. Excellent. You see, I'm not covering that whole top area. I'm just covering enough area and working it in, because I'm going to be dropping some stones in there. And that's going to help us also. I'm just picking out certain areas where I think, and you don't have to follow the way I do, you just do it basically the way you want to and how you want it to fit in, and that's what really matters the most. Now you see, we went out of focus there, but I have like these little bit of larger rocks. I probably should have sanded the top a bit, but I didn't. I really wanted it to be something a little bit different. So I'm just taking and mushing these in and making sure that they sit up and kick off what does not. And I think it's just a nice, neat little piece of scenery and how that works together. And then you turn it on its side. And there we go. So we're going to sit that down a little bit. Then I'm going to make sure we cover up some of that stuff. And you could add some lichen in there if you wanted to. I don't think I do. Nah. See, I was looking and I was thinking, well, that would have been something a little bit different. Well, I decided not to. And now that I think about it, I'm very happy that I didn't. And I'm just making sure those are locked in there. And then what we're going to do is, well, we're just going to, yeah, hold it up on its side, have you check it out a little bit. It's a little bit different, but it's a great objective for what we're trying to accomplish in heavy gear. And it's really something that you can see how the rock looks, see how that kind of works. And this is a beginner piece. This is an exact beginner piece. But you can see how those rock formations work. And that's just by us using that hot gun there and how it works. And then, you know, I put different types of pieces on there so you can kind of get a feel of how it is. And there we have our finished product. I'm really happy with it. And I think it just looks, you know, perfect for what we wanted to do. I dry brushed a little over the top a little bit with a lighter brown, and you can see where these things just kind of work and sit together. So there you have it. That's how you do it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to send this up top and get on out of here. Well, there you have it. Just a very simple piece. I wanted to do this to see how people felt about it, because we'll do more complex terrain as we go, and I think that'll help a lot of people if we have a piece by piece on how to do it and how easy it is to do some more of the complex things that we're going to be doing. So if you enjoy this, put it down in the comments, let me know, and until next time, it's your old pal Rob. We'll see you soon.